Before I start the show, I need to shout out Mount Baker, Washington. Opening day 2024 was incredible, and I was there with Peter Line thanks to the generous support of the Mount Baker ski area. Thanks, guys. Season 10 is presented by Flojoy Water, Chris Roach's family business. Refresh your style with Flojoy artisanal mountain water. Pure water, pure stoke. And essential toothpaste tabs. Earth-friendly, adventure-ready toothpaste. Clean ingredients, supported by science. Wired Snowboards factory in Vancouver builds high-quality custom snowboards for about the same price as other brands' regular boards. I've created several one-of-a-kind wired customs, including a Chase 162 that's seen hundreds of my best powder days. Get yourself a game-changing snowboard and join the Wired team with Devin Walsh, Sasha Daly, and many others. Wired Snowboards. For more information, go to wiredsnowboards.com. Fixed bindings are my go-to for all my snowboards because they're comfortable, durable, and look rad. Fix makes bindings I want to ride. Simple, lightweight, and dependable, made from the best materials, using the most environmentally friendly production processes possible. They offer lifetime warranty on bases and buckles. If you're looking for affordable performance bindings in the perfect color to match your fit, go to fixbindingco.com or grab them at your local retailer. Bluebird Coffee Tuning and Rentals in Squamish is the coolest new stop on your way to Whistler. Bluebird offers quality board tunes using state-of-the-art equipment, premium rentals for every level of rider with demos of Burton step-ons, and award-winning coffee and incredible smoothies. For a blend of expert knowledge, convenience, and lots of charm, stop by Bluebird in Squamish and get your board tuned at the newest mandatory stop on your way to Whistler. Pro Standard makes the grill mount the best mount for your Insta360 GoPro or DJI camera. It's a heat moldable mouth mount, tripod, hand grip, hook mount, bottle mount, wall mount, clamp mount, glove mount, and shoe mount, designed by snowboard legend Ken Ochenbach to get you the perfect angle for snowboarding, surfing, biking, and it'll replace 90% of your other mounts. Use code FNRad to get 20 off your first order at prostandard.com. Support also comes from our friends at the Boardroom Snowboard Shop. Check out boardroomshop.com and use code FNRAD10 for 10% off regular priced items and FNRAD5 for 5% off sale items. 1910, the collaborative artworks of Jamie Lynn and Scof. FNRAD20 saves you 20% off at 1910.com. New Greens, the superfood green drink sourced from American farms. Use code FNRAD for 20% off at newgreens.com. I want to thank DeKind Snowboard outerwear, travel bags, and backpacks, Rip Curl's Anti-Series outerwear, and our friends at Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, and Cypress Mountain for their support. Peter Line was a leader of the progression in snowboarding from the 90s into the 2000s. His pro model boards on Division 23 were bestsellers. He started Forum with some high-profile business partners when he was just 21 years old. He designed a lot of outerwear and continues to do so, and he's still fostering progression in the community by supporting the upcoming generation as a current owner at Forum Snowboards. I got to shred Baker with him opening day this year, a testament to the perks of having a snowboard podcast for 10 seasons. I'm super proud to bring you this interview with the one and only Peter Line.
For a few days, we would paint address numbers on people's curbs. I'd go up and, hey, you see your number's fading. We can do a stencil of your number, $5 or something like that. And that lasted like a couple of days.
Who came up with that?
Or my buddy, like, making some extra money, I guess.
He's like, we can make some cash this way.
Yeah, because in our neighborhood is like all the curbs are the same, and it's just this little stencil of the number.
Where were you living?
I was in Bellevue.
In Bellevue, proper.
Bellevue, Washington.
Are you still in Bellevue now?
No, I'm in downtown Seattle.
Yeah, you're in Seattle.
Yeah. I was like where my parents grew up. I moved out of there as soon as I got hairy armpits, I guess, or something. Late bloomer.
Yeah, so when you were 20 or something.
Yeah, something around there.
I love that. So your curb painting, did it make you guys some money and then you were done because you're like, we have money now?
It didn't make us enough money that we continue to do it, or we didn't care about the money.
Right.
It's like, oh, let's go skateboard, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's just more a thing to do. I'm like, oh, I got a couple bucks.
Somebody figured it
right.
out that you could do that. That's actually kind of ingenious. I've never heard of someone doing it.
I can't take credit for the idea, though.
It was a buddy. You started snowboarding at a very young age. At that time.
At that time.
At that time. Now
Yes.
people are getting into it when they're 2 or
So,
whatever.
yeah, for reference, in 1987, 13 was a young age to get into snowboarding, because to know what snowboarding was, you had to be a skateboarder, because that's the only kind of view of where you would know what snowboarding is from those magazines first.
Yeah.
I think some BMX magazines had a couple write-ups about snowboarding. And from there, there weren't really, I mean, the smallest board I think was 140, the board that I got.
Yeah.
So I think I was chewing here, sorry.
I love it. I love it.
I think the smallest board that Sims had at the time was like a 150.
Yeah.
Granted, boards kind of, you rode a little bit bigger boards back then.
Well, everybody kind of shared a board still. It wasn't even at the point where everyone had their own board. It was a lot of hiking. 87's getting to resort time.
If you're
but
serious, you get your own board.
of course. Of course. But
I mean, like, you can't borrow your friend's board. Like, hey, let's go snowboarding. It's like, hey, can I borrow your board? It's like, well, what am I going to ride? It's like, I don't care. You can borrow it from Dave or whatever. Well, what's Dave going to ride? He can borrow from Kevin.
I love it. But 87, there's almost no kids gear whatsoever. There isn't. That Switchblade comes out in
It was like 88, yeah.
around 87, 88, right?
Pocket knife and
Pocket
switchblade,
knife,
yep.
right? Pocket knife, which was, I don't even know what size that was, but it was like a one.
And it was a 45,
Yeah, 40.
46, 45, 46.
Still
Then
kinda big.
Switchblade is bigger.
And
And the kid roll is 62 or 65 or something.
was Sims already on your radar at that point, like as something that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically Sims, Barfoot, Burton, and then these cool, crazy winter stick boards that have these like little. They had like this plastic plexiglassy little dots all over it.
Yeah.
That look like that one game that you etch, like Light Bright, that you
Yeah.
put the pegs in.
Totally.
They look like that on the top sheet. So they're always like, these are cool looking, but they're like $1,000, I think, even
And
back then.
they were brittle. They were brittle. Like
There's just like 180 or 2,000 size centimeter powder board. So it's just more of a novelty. Like, those are what boards used to look like.
where would you even go to look at snowboards in 1987 in Bellevue? Was there like a ski shop that
Bike
had
Factory with Bob Barcy. So he's kind of a legend at the time for being one of the first guys around that snowboard, and had Bike Factory that sold skateboards, bikes, and snowboards. They actually had a pretty big snowboard section there.
stuff? Yeah.
And then there's Gravity Sports. Actually, I don't think they had snowboards so much. They're mostly skateboards. Fallout 2, which is mostly music, and a used snowboard, which is where my mom bought my first snowboard for Christmas.
Sick.
And they had skateboards, but that place was right downtown in Seattle, 316 Olive Way, I believe is the address. I still remember. I think I still remember.
That's
But
amazing.
it was like basically just this punk rock, little tiny, as you'd imagine that, just like stickers everywhere. Guy at the counter with a mohawk, just all these fucking DRI albums and Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, Minor Threat, all that stuff just like everywhere. Like, and then my mom's like this little suburban mom walking in, is like, my son saw that snowboard up there and said that's the one he wanted. and And she said that everyone's like really nice. And like,
Of course,
yeah, punks are like the nicest people.
The
It's,
nicest
like,
people.
And like the hippies are probably like the meanest people.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Don't cross a hippie, but like cross a punk, they're like, whatever.
It's unreal.
I was going to say that, but
So you were into skateboarding before snowboarding then as well? Like that kind of mid 80s, like Bones Brigade,
I think it was like 85
explosion.
I started skateboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bones Brigade video show, I think the first movie, then Animal Chin and all those ones afterwards. Public Domain, and then got into H Street era.
Did you do any BMX stuff before that? Because BMX played a large role in...
So when I lived in
early
Florida,
snowboarding.
BMX was really big.
Yeah.
I was pretty young, and my parents didn't really want to get me the cool bike.
It was expensive and they were hard to... It wasn't like you could just go and buy a cool bike. You had to build all these components up and...
Yeah, I didn't even know that. All I knew was like the double gooseneck was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the Mongoose logo was cool.
Sick.
And my brother had a Mongoose, and so I liked it. But I also heard red lines were the best ones, and
Right.
Schwinn were whack or whatever. And so we go to the BMX shop, and like I'll just stare at the sticker counters, like all these cool stickers. I still have that kind of cool nostalgic feeling when I'm kind of like seeing the old school 80s, like actually that's probably possibly the 70s at that point.
Yeah.
Stickers from BMX stuff, and they're just super fun, loud, crazy, wacky, all this stuff. But like they're so interesting. I just would stare at the counter and like, I don't know, just kind of inspired by all that. I think still to today to have kind of like that influence on a lot of things. I probably still do.
Yeah, I think BMX crossed over in a lot of ways because there was like kind of the uniforms too, the outfits that people were wearing. So you'd match your like Vans to your pants, you know, and the pants would have the knee pads. Like maybe that's even
Yeah,
where
I
we
didn't
got
get
the knee
that far
stuff
into
from.
BMX at the time. I was more like just like a watcher from the side. Of
Sure.
sorts. I had a BMX bike, of course, but I didn't
Yeah.
really get into it. I don't even think I saw Rad.
Wow.
And then I got into skateboarding, and then the movie Rad's not cool, so I wouldn't,
Totally.
you know, for a little kid like me to think something's not cool. But anyway, and so like the first time I actually saw Rad, the movie, which is an awesome BMX movie, by the way,
Yeah.
was recently, and I went with Blue Montgomery from
Sick.
Capita, and he just recently started working with this bike track, owner of a bike track now. His daughter's like national level, and she's like only like 8 or something like
Yeah,
that.
she
Like,
came up and
it's
won
amazing.
the Canadian Nationals.
Yeah,
I'm like,
she's
she's not
amazing.
even
And
Canadian. You can do that? You can just go and win some other places Nationals? That's sick.
You're stealing our nationals. Yeah, is that like the whole point of the nationals? Is like
Find
you're
the
not
best of the
supposed to have-
country, right?
Wouldn't it be just a global at that point, a world
Yeah.
thing?
I
Anyway,
went to the Nationals in Canada. I'm not from
maybe it's
there, but I won it.
That's not a nation though.
Yeah, she won the Nationals
Continent.
in
She won
Canada.
the continent.
Yeah, totally. She ripped it. But so like he was like, you haven't seen Rad, and then you guys sat down and watched it. It's a fun movie.
He actually had a showing at a theater,
Come on.
and like a bunch of people came. It was actually really awesome. Like it was like the whole heckling parts, you know, like
Yeah.
laughing at the funny 80s style, the cheesy lines, and like the guy wins and was cheering, and so it was really fun.
Yeah.
To see it in that aspect instead of it's kind of like watching it as a kid, like this movie sucks, you know, as kids do.
Yeah.
So to see it like in the full nostalgia, never seen it before, then see it with people how stoked it was awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, we have to do a screening like that for Ken Achenbach because it was filmed in Calgary. It was filmed just outside of where he lived. And he was away for the summer, and all his friends are in it. And he was so pissed when he
really?
got back that he was like, because he would have been in it.
Well, that was like me with Out Cold. Like I got my knee injury right when they're doing Out Cold, and so I went to the reading for it in L.A.
Yeah.
to try and get a part.
Yeah.
I'm not good at acting, apparently. Or like maybe I was, but they just wanted my skills, and they found out that I had a hurt knee and I won't be able to ride for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, we'll call you back. And they never called me back.
Devin did it.
Todd Richards got
Todd
a good
did
part.
it. Devin did it. Yeah.
And he didn't
Keatley
snowboard.
was in it.
And yeah, Ryo, Devin were in it. They're all riding. And so I could have gotten a Ryo, or maybe not the Ryo part, but Devin part. I could have taken him out. And that was probably filmed in Canada too, so they probably would have to pay him less or something. I don't know.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah, at scale.
So I would have been cut anyway, I guess.
Yeah, Zach Galifianakis was in that. Mm-hmm. It's insane.
It was a really bad movie for him.
Oh, yeah.
I heard he's a dick in it, but that's just coming from one person saying that. But
sure, probably. He was like just a quirky dude, right? I could see him being very easy to misunderstand.
A very kind of just flat joke, and the person doesn't get it, and like, that good dick.
Yeah, totally.
I think I get that a lot.
Do you? Yeah. No.
Yeah, I say something sarcastic in a funny, weird way, and people don't understand it, and they probably just walk away like, what the fuck is that?
So the weirdness, when does that start? Like, were you a weird kid when you were in school? Like, were you doing
I don't know.
weird art projects and shit like that?
I did art stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that I'm putting out, I would have a detailed thought on it and want to intentionally make it different than what everybody else would be doing. So anything from this interview eating a grilled cheese sandwich to just any sort of intro to a video to where like everyone, like, kids are gonna be watching this video and they're gonna be repeating the same line that everyone says. So if they're gonna be repeating my line from my video entrance of my first video magazine thing, I'm gonna make it fucking weird. So they're repeating this weird fucking thing instead of like, I just want to ride down the mountain and do cool tricks, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make like, I was growing up by chipmunks and my mom's a chimpanzee or something like that, to where it's like, what the fuck is that? It's like, when I was a little kid, I didn't have nothing important to say. Like, I'm just snowboarding, and even at that time, I didn't really understand what I was doing. I just wanted to do something progressive, cool, and keep on kind of changing the sport, because that's what I grew up watching. Riders, I like the riders who kept on doing new things and not just the same old stuff every year, and that's what I was basically kind of copying, that idea of it. More after I learned all those tricks, that I had no more tricks to learn, so I had to create new ones.
Right.
To learn. It wasn't really fun for me just to perfect them and land them all the time. It was like I got bored, and now I want to do something else.
And it was, you were in this wonderful time where it was like, you could start looking at snowboarding as its own thing, because before, for a while there, it was just skateboard tricks. So we would just do skateboard tricks. That was what was happening. Well, then all of a sudden, there was stuff you could do on a snowboard that was skate adjacent, but it was its own thing, you know?
But it still followed the rules, basically, that we got from skating. So where the style is still a thing.
Yes.
And you still had to kind of do a grab, or at least if you didn't do a grab, make it look stylish and not wacky. And so it still kind of followed the same guidelines as before, but yes, we're strapped in. We can do a lot more with this. We can go a lot bigger, because lots of times the snow's softer for falling, and it's not as concrete. And I just started tangenting off on a thought. I remember listening to like some pro skaters when they go snowboarding, and they're obviously having snowboard a lot, and they're like, dude, look at all this board I can grab. I can grab down here, and they're grabbing Tindy and tailfish and all that stuff. It's like, dude, that's whack. It's like, why is it whack? It's like, dude, there's so much to grab, you can tweak it. And these are like the coolest street skaters out there.
Right.
And then they don't understand that, dude, that's fucking whack. It's like, why is a Tindy whack? Why is a tailfish whack? I mean, if you do switch method in front of the binding, that's kind of cool, I guess. But if you go forward and do it, it's kind of whack.
Right.
Which I think it's still whack, but
it's super whack.
I think there's ways of making some of that stuff, and that's a challenge.
I think that's
challenge your listeners. Like,
yeah,
can you make a tailfish or a Tindy look cool? And like, all right.
Yeah, like a double poke Noah thing. Like, that was against all odds, that we would look at double pokes and be like, whoa, cool, that's the thing I want to do. It's flop my board around like a fish. But for a while, that was the shit, dude. Triple pokes?
And then it became like the late spins.
Late spins.
Those are, I think that was like I think it's Selaznick. And maybe Brushy was kind of famous for those ones.
Oof, yeah, with the big pants and just like up and just
Gucci.
Yeah,
like that was a fun era of like, oh, shifties. And the late backside 180s, late backside 3, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I think a little bit after that, that's why I kind of did like the shifties and the spin, like the cab. I think there's a video magazine, a cab 3 little shifty in it.
People still do that to
now
this day.
they're doing
so
it with,
good.
like, you know,
yeah.
in the 1080, like
Sure.
1080, 1260s and shit,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
shifties and all that stuff in the middle.
But
some
they
can get a
look
little
so
aggressive.
good. Yeah. Yep.
But no, I'm not judging.
I mean, it was wide open when you were young, right? Like, people hadn't done all sorts of things. Like, I think it was up here that Rankwood started those butters. And then I remember the butter off of the pillows in one of those Mack Dawg films. Like, we were watching to see, okay, what's it going to be? What's the progression this year? And you buttered maybe 3 different shots off of different things, and we're like, oh shit, we're gonna have to learn how to butter off
technical
a
difficulties.
I think it's technical.
We're kind of more famous one or whatever. And
Yep.
I was up there at Dogger, we're hitting that railroad drop thing. I did cab 9 on, I think, in the video too. And then he just kind of looked at the rock thing. He actually suggested that one. So I think I might have done the little buttery thing on something else small.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you can do that butter thing over there.
On that
like,
big rock.
Oh, okay. And I just kind of remember till for right now, like knowing when you do a butter, you can kind of pop out of it a normal way. You just do like a frontside half cab or whatever.
Yep.
But for those, you need to pop out a little bit slower because you're going to pop out too fast and over rotate.
Yeah.
And so I just remember like, you got to hold it a little bit more so I'd land at the first try or second try. Anyway. And it's just kind of weird little things like that. Like another thing I still remember, like how to do certain tricks, just like is like on, say, a backside 270 on a hip, you come in fakie. But if the hip has a steep landing, you kind of throw your board up higher, so you're not like kind of coming down your nose. You got to throw it up to the transition. Like all this stuff kind of learned through the years, but I also apply to when I'm going to do a new trick type of a thing. It's like, okay, what did I learn from that one over there? Like, okay, same thing. So that translated into like that former against some switch backside 270 into the wall thing to like I need to cork this thing and throw my board up flat on the thing. I just can't go flat on it because I'm just going to zing out and all this other stuff. So kind of like how the progression of how to do tricks from one to another, even though they don't exactly the same, but it's how you kind of come around certain things. Kind of interesting, fun, and a fun kind of development you kind of seem to remember sometimes.
Did you ever get stuck? Like, were you ever at a point where you're like, shit, I need a new thing for this year, and I got nothing?
And I think that's when I stopped filming for a long time. I think it's probably a longevity of just slow burnout, getting older, doing the same thing forever, having fun with other things in life type of a thing. Like, just like, I want to enjoy life, and snowboarding obviously takes up a lot of time. It's amazing, still having fun doing it, but I was kind of just doing other things too, even getting more into kind of creative stuff. Always been doing that for my life, and so lots of kind of different outlets that I kind of was focusing more on, and just probably had a bit of insecurity too of like just so many good snowboarders are coming out there, like, oh man, I can't do some of those tricks yet. It's like I can't do them now, and I like whack trying them and not doing them or something like that. Like if I can't do something, I got to do something else.
Right.
Type of a thing.
Yes.
Like, just to kind of balance it. Like, okay, I'm not really good at switch backside rodeos. Like, yeah, well, I can't, but I can go do something else. And so I think during that kind of hiatus, I was kind of thinking of other ideas, and that's what kind of came back with Former Against him with a few different new ideas of tricks and stuff, like the hand plant transfers on stuff. And a wall ride type of a thing, and it's kind of like seeing riders ride the street stuff without necessarily doing rails, because I've never really been a street rail guy, because I like doing airs and stuff, like the feeling of airing things. I never really liked board slide type things where you're not really hitting it with an air. Like if there's an air to a board slide type of thing I've done, those are fun. I dig it. airing up onto a rail is fun, but just for street, it wasn't really my thing that I liked. Full respect is gnarly and scary as shit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I didn't really have fun doing that.
Wasn't a draw for you.
Not really, no.
Were there places that are famous now that you were there when you guys found them? You know, like jumps where you're looking for like good shit, and then you're like, hey, what about this over here? I think we could land over there. And it's become that like go-to spot for people, or were a lot of things already there?
That are still relevant today. I don't know about that, because when in our era, I think we've kind of gotten bigger stuff. There's been, I think they did call one like Peter Line jump or something like that for a moment. Then I just got too small. I think I did like a cab 9 or something on it a long time ago. It was pretty small anyway, but some people were like, oh, I call it that. It was just like, but I don't think it was barely in any videos anyway. I don't know, like, I think the forum step down was obviously there because it's in a very prime location. Everyone can see it.
Yeah.
So I don't think we were the first ones to hit that by any means, but it's called the forum step down because forum came there and demolished it. You know, like every trick was done in the Resistance movie pretty much, and then came back again a few more times. And I was talking to Jack McDougall, and he's up there. He's like, forum step down, like, JP did this, JP did this, JP did this, Peter did this, you know, so-and-so did this, and like, I got nothing. And then Jack's like, well, I could do backside rodeo. And then the way he did it, they built it up differently. And so he had a giant pop into it, and like, he just sent it, and then just kind of dropped into his landing. It was so sick. And so that was like one of the things of like hooking up Jack, is like, just watching that, I was like, dude, you took something that's been around for a while, and you fucking like made us impressed by it, the way you overstepped it, you know, type of a thing. And just a bunch of other stuff he was riding, but what do they call it? Never been, no. I've never been done.
MBDs, yeah. That's not my territory for sure. I mean, I'm more on the Chad Otterstrom tip of like, if you added a 180 to something that's already been done, you didn't just like invent a new trick. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, if you're going from the 21, I think 2160 is a big spin now, to the next spin, which math goes into a 20-something else.
Sure.
I think that's more of a first one to do it.
Because sure.
It's not an imagination thing. I think inventing a trick is an imagination thing.
Right. It was in that era, you weren't practicing on airbags. Do you know what I mean? Like, you didn't have a coach, and you weren't in the harness for a trampoline to get your body movement. It was like you thought of a trick. We were talking about this today, about like you looking and you're going, this seems possible, right? Like you saw a creative shot of Brushy from underneath, and you're like, wait, did he cork that out? Like, that would be sick. And then you talk to him, he's like, no, it was just camera angle or whatever. And you're like, but I think that would be sick. Like, I've often given you credit for the fact that snowboarding didn't immediately go to the aerial skiing model, where they build like a giant straight up jump, and they do like backflips, and they get like points off for like being off axis.
It's like figure skating, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, you were like, we're going to be off axis right away. I want to do
off
it
of normal jumps, you just do a straight air off, because there's jumps you can't do a straight air.
Right.
You have to go inverted. So that's another thing that I don't know if it's going to be controversial or not, or just kind of an evolution. I think, why can't snowboarders hit maybe not quite that crazy of a jump, cut it off maybe 5 feet down, have that same super steep chopped landing, and see what can be done on that? Because they're still hitting just kind of more straight jumps.
That's true.
To make the jump more for what kids are doing. And is that stupid? Is that kind of like going against snowboarding? Is that, this is the way you make a jump. It's like a quarter pipe or a spine that you're going over, but it's a offset spine type of a thing.
It doesn't
and
look
so
as
you just
good.
Make it look cool.
Yeah,
you don't make it look like this narrow highway thing. Like, it just make it a little bit wider and something like that. Maybe put some landings on the side so you can kind of do a different hip style, but like something where you can't hit it straight air style.
Right.
like almost like a half pipe wall that's set back just a little bit, but like it forces you into doing what the future is going to happen anyway. Like people are going to be doing another cork, another spin, all that stuff.
Are we at 5s at this point? Has somebody done a 5 cork or whatever? Quads have happened.
A penta cork.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, so I don't think we have. We're at a penta
No,
cork.
but it's going to happen.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
Where is skiing at? They were at triples in the 80s. Quads.
I haven't
I bet
been
they're
up
at
to date,
5s.
but I mean, I used to like totally watch, like skiing is fucking crazy. Like
crazy.
watching Candide just do some of his lines. It's like, dude, that's a good. Like, if you can burn down like these crazy runs that fast and just hit shit and go fucking nuts, like that's a fucking not just a snowboarder doing what Candide does. Like that guy would be the best.
The best. Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like that's where you kind of look to like where can snowboarding go? It's like skiing. In a lot of aspects. Yeah, like I mean, it's just looking at skiing as inspiration. Like
Right. Well, we had to. I've talked about this on mic a few times. As a business model, there were already ski companies making small snowboards, essentially, one for each foot. So when we started making snowboards, when brands started just garage building snowboards, as soon as you got to a level where you needed a certain amount, you had to go to a manufacturer that was already in business, and they were a ski company usually. So we kind of lost control of that creative process. Like we didn't solve some of our own problems. Like we didn't come up with P-Tex or how to attach edges or wood cores. All that stuff was, we just adopted somebody else's technology. And also we didn't make snowboard mountains. We just went to ski hills. It was already there. You know what I mean? We didn't come up with snowboard lifts. There were already ski lifts and we just sat on them and they worked for us.
what would a snowboard lift look like?
I have
sideways?
no idea. Yeah. How would that even work? Well,
Let's
wouldn't.
think of that concept.
It wouldn't be
you'd-
straight.
So it would. So you had that on strap, so that all of the lift lines would be going slanted downhill, and everyone has to slide on their heel edge to get
Yeah.
there. And then you have all these people fucking dominoing. If one person falls in front, backwards, and they hit the person behind them, they all domino. So I think it's in that aspect. I think it's good that skiers kind of test the grounds there. So
Sure, they probably-
we don't look like fools trying to invite our own fucking chairlift that sideways. Everyone just slides off to the end, and then we have dominoes because we can't stand the lift line properly with our straps still strapped in.
I think the thing that it did though was it.
I'm sure some engineers can probably think of a better.
Yeah, maybe.
That's just top of my head. But
Yeah, somebody draw up what a snowboard lift would look like. It's probably a drone.
I think it'd just be a bed. You just got hit in the back of the knees and you just fall backwards, and your board's
yeah.
sitting there and you're just laying back with a pillow.
That would be good. And you don't have to take your
And
board
then
off.
at the end, it elevates you, just kind of throws you.
Like one of
Like a
those
catapult
chairs
style.
that my mom sits in that stands her up.
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, I think because a lot of the stuff was already invented, it stifled some creativity. Like I brought up Quinn Sandvold, and he was innovating on the material end of things. He's like, okay, well, we're getting them made at a ski factory with ski edges. I want to make an edge that can hit a rail and not break. So like he was like working on innovations that would
Yeah, I
serve
mean,
to
we have the technology
snowboarding.
to do our own thing now, but nothing is completely changed.
Right.
And they're taking ideas from snowboarding and applying them to skiing, like
Yep.
reverse cambered, wider skis. Who knows if that would ever be a thing without snowboards?
Yeah, even
doing it
deeper side
first.
cut and stuff like
Deeper
that
side
seem
cut,
to come from snowboarding back
They
to
have
skiing.
magnet traction on skis. I'm not sure.
Probably they would have to.
I would hope that they patented that for skis as well. Libtech does make skis.
Yeah, talking about the patent thing, I think the first time I even heard the word patent in snowboarding was your snowboard boot. So how did that come about? Did you get offered?
Didn't Burton patent snowboarding before?
Oh
that?
yeah, that's right. That
And
was like the bad word. Right.
Which actually turned out to be a good thing because they didn't want anybody else to patent it, and
Right.
you just had to trust them.
Yes.
And a lot of people, especially now, don't trust anybody who has money. Everyone's corrupt, they say. But, I mean, as we've learned, they didn't do anything with the snowboarding patent, put people out of business because we own snowboards. You got to call it a snow whatever.
Right.
That's probably patented.
Right.
But anyway.
I think they tried to enforce a couple of times on like the 3-hole pattern binding thing. If you made
their
3
own
holes
technology,
for their
but
thing,
not
but not snowboarding
patent
generally.
snowboard
Right. Can't patent
thing.
fun. That was like a big.
Yeah.
That was
Bumper
a
sticker. Yeah.
Yeah, and a big issue. People were like, Burton's patenting snowboarding. But
It
there was
like the skateboarding's not a crime sticker.
it was like Sims and Burton fighting on like a pretty aggressive level. Like they wanted to take each other out. They didn't.
I
like
think
each
it
other.
started with Craig. That was like the first big lawsuit when Craig left to go to Burton. Then there's like and then I think it's probably the beginning of the downfall of Sims. 'Cause
I
they
think so too. I think
got bought or something and switched to 2 different companies, and they had, for 1 year they had 2 brands making Sims snowboards that came out, and like,
Oh my
you had to
God.
make sure you got the right one that was the cool one, and which one was that.
yeah, that's insane.
Oh, Pat Bridges is calling me.
Oh, that's interfering. You're right. You could hear that. Zzz, zzz.
He's probably saying our ad is due.
Yeah. But the Burton Sims thing, kind of that rivalry actually like launches a bunch of stuff. You know, like launches snowboarding into the next era. I think there's an argument to be made that Craig took what Sims was doing and brought it to Burton. Said this is how we're going to do it.
I mean,
But Jake
yes,
was
but
already
at the same
working
time,
with ski industry guys. Yeah.
it would have happened anyway. I mean, Sims came out the binding is far superior than what Burton was making, and so I don't know. Like,
Burton goes back to the table and tries to make something better. Yeah.
but that's like normal in anything with business. It's your product, it's your design. People put a lot of time, effort, education into something, and you just don't want people to just take the idea and
Right.
like, oh, sweet, we invested all this money and time into it, and then all of a sudden someone who's got the capabilities of mass producing it for cheaper reaps the reward.
It happens a lot.
So I mean,
it's
it's
happened.
fair to have
Yeah.
some sort of patent wars of sorts and stuff. And
Totally.
patent things and
So during that Sims Burton era, like the Craig era, what board are you riding? You're riding Sim stuff or
I think that was when I had the pocket knife.
pocket knife? Yeah.
And then after that, I got a Kemper 155 freestyle, the white one.
Oh, that was
looks-
dope.
I think they did a reissue.
Yep.
That was a board a little big for me. I mean, I'm not even riding a 55 now, unless it's in powder. And that's when I learned weird grabs on that board. Like the wall tear, I think, is where like front hand stalefish, like around the front,
Oh wow.
something like that. Like I learned that like backside 180 wall tear.
Damn.
I don't know. It's Randy Walter. I
Is
don't know
it
if
Randy Walter? Yeah. A wall
it's-
tear.
I don't know if he did stalefish or if he did backhand to melon or anyway. That was a kind of a fun. That was when grabs are getting crazy and weird, and you're doing all these type hands and stuff like that. Like in snowboarding, it became like straight airs, and then like, okay, we know all straight airs. Like, what's next? Like, oh, different grabs on the straight airs.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, like we're starting to do spins now. Like spins is a serious thing. Like,
Right.
and then progress from there.
Yeah, I can remember when if you could do a 5, you were doing pretty well. You might get a sponsorship by being able to do a 540. Like that
Oh yeah,
was
no, totally. Like,
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of threes, and like, oh, that guy did a 5 in a video. Like, depending how big it is, and then
that was crazy timing. It was just like it was such a wonderful time. There's something about it that's still happening in snowboarding. You know what I mean? Like it snowed. I get excited, go to the mountain, Did you used to make a conscious decision to come to like a Baker opening day, for example? Because Baker opening days are legendary, right? They always open with a meter of snow or more, like 3 feet of snow. There's some good people here.
I think it was more from, I think I actually did come up here like when I was in high school with my friend. He drove and I didn't drive, and he'd drive us up here. And opening day, because we were just so excited about go snowboarding, so anywhere that opened, it wasn't necessarily about Baker's opening days. Like Baker always opened first,
right?
And so it's just the first day of snowboarding anywhere.
Yeah,
But then it's just like, dude, Baker's opening days are always good. Like, because of the Northwest, to explain this to the listeners, the first snows are always really heavy, and so it makes a complete base on the mountain. So every stump, every rock, everything is covered up. And then it just has to dump and get enough snow over top of that for them to have enough snow to open. And so opening day always has just tons of new fresh snow. And so you can just send it off of anything, and knowing underneath it you're not going to hit any rocks or stumps or anything. And so like the opening day is just like just going for it.
Game on. It's already game on,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to like a man-made opening day where it's kind of like a couple groomer runs, then it's like sheet ice. And you're just scraping along on your edges.
Or like even like in Utah, like a lot of times it's like sick blower pal, and you blow it, and then underneath it's just full kind of like rocks and stuff. So I remember kind of going to Utah, Jackson Hole for like some opening days, and it's like, oh dude, send it, and like they're like, wait, I think I've learned before I sent it to like just kind of going down some tree runs, like
the
snow
worst.
just would blow off everything, and then
Yeah.
there's like some ice underneath. I mean, it wasn't dust on crust, but it was still fun. But you definitely, any sort of bump was going to be revealed for what it really is underneath. To where here, it's like any bump is you can pop off.
Yeah,
You can land
yeah.
on any bump type of
Yeah,
thing. Like, you don't have to
totally.
worry. So it's like just fun to just go for it here.
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest snowpack is probably one of the best in the world. Anywhere else that has a really good snowpack has like a lake effect, right? Like Lake Tahoe. Yeah, there's a couple of places. Revelstoke's got a good lake effect going on, where you get like coastal snowpack. That's basically what it is. Did you do a lot of Alaska days? You would have gone up to Alaska with Mack Dawg and
Not really. Like we went up there for one of the movies, Technical Difficulties, I think.
yeah,
The one with me on the cover.
yeah.
It was actually Alaska shot. But we
Sick.
go up there to hit jumps type of a thing. Went helling up there. But I didn't want to do lines. Like I think I've mentioned this in interviews before, to like some of the best snowboarders have almost died doing lines, and like I'm not as good as they are at that stuff. Like it could be just has nothing to do with their snowboarding. Just, there's a little hidden soldier underneath the takeoff of a cliff, and then low angle cliff, and you're toast.
Yep.
Some weird crevasse type of a thing, some weird avalanche type of thing, that even it's on a safe slope from the dig pit and all that stuff, it's still, and that wasn't, and also because just growing up watching snowboarding, and watching the standard films, especially, like I just fast forward through like the line stuff, it didn't really appeal to me. Like I like the fucking skateboarding, like progressive stuff, but how the progressive stuff evolved into going into more and more backcountry stuff, then all the kind of safety aspects kind of gaped there. But it's a little bit more easier to pack out stuff and like snowmobiling and getting up there without a helicopter. So you just basically get dropped off and you see your thing, and you can maybe hike up. But anyway,
A bunch of times, right,
and
right.
it just wasn't what
You weren't
filming from Mack Dawg. It wasn't really what we were best at.
Sure. Sure.
But we did find some really cool stuff up there and got some cool shots from it.
Of course. Yeah, you weren't the like frothing morning guy, first tracks, like burning to make turns.
As you've learned today,
Yeah,
riding,
yeah.
I don't care about the first chair.
Sure, exactly.
Hate me all you want on that one.
No, it's good. I
I'll
think-
find some fun stashes and have fun. If I'm there for first chair, yeah, I'm gonna, but am I gonna hike up to get the best POW stash? It's like, no, I'm just gonna go ride right now because I don't want to waste more time hiking.
Yeah,
Get
and you
something maybe better,
and you ride the
probably better, but
You still ride the mountain like a skate park. Like that's I mean, it's obvious to me that was your influence on the sport, was like creativity, new tricks, and like that thing that you've mentioned with like Rankwit Roach, like a style gatekeeper. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you're not doing wacky stuff. I've heard a lot of people say there's only one way to do a backside rodeo, even though there's lots of different ways, but the right way is the way you do them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a lot of cool ways. There's some little more flippy ways, and that's where I start going, backside rodeos are a heel catch type of a thing.
Sure.
And then, yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to the beginning. But for me, like, yeah, riding and doing a fun little weird side hit where I'll hit it the first run, just doing ollies. Like, ooh, that's kind of a fun little popper. So the next run, I'll do something else, and then do something else. Like, and then you start progressing with that small little side hit, but you start going bigger or start getting more technical on it. It's gonna give me the same feeling that I would get as doing it's a wicked pow turn, which I totally enjoy, but it's the same feeling.
Yep.
It's like, oh, dude, I just learned a new trick. I just like learned, because whether it's like, hitting his little side hit and doing a switch front side alley 3 and coming around, but like kind of doing it differently, like grabbing nose and tapping my tail on the fucking whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just learned something that I can apply to something bigger and move on and kind of progress from that. And it's like, I felt good, but it's also learning feel good too at the same time. To where a pow turn is like, oh, that felt good, but that was just for me.
Right.
Like it for me, I think it's definitely not selfish to enjoy that stuff, but I think for me, it's still kind of snowboarding was maybe not necessarily a business, but like something where I felt I always had to continue doing, and so to get that same sort of feeling doing something that is going to help me move forward with my snowboarding.
Yeah.
And then right now I'm just kind of maybe jaded, I guess. I don't know. I've had a lot of really fun, amazing powder days, and I will still have a lot of fun, amazing powder days, and probably just need to go to the gym and hike, or go to the gym and do the Stairmaster, and then hiking won't be such a pain for me. So that's on me.
Sure.
And nothing against the hikers and all that stuff. I think it's awesome. And
do you think, going back to like the Division 23 days, like I remember Division 23 hitting really hard. Like the graphics were on point, the ads were great, the team was amazing. It's crazy because Steve Blakely was kind of this thing where the graphic was good, he was in the air, so it made the ads great. I don't remember seeing him in a lot of films, like it wasn't like he wasn't a self-proclaimed innovator or whatever. But Division 23, did that set the kind of guideposts for where you're going to go with your, career, like forum?
Oh, for sure. Greg DeLeo was the president of Division 23, and he changed my life for sure, just through his ideas and creativity of how to do a brand. Then also being my first board sponsor and kind of give me the outlet. I mean, granted, probably would get sponsored by somebody else, but that's not. I think I just learned more from him because it was a small company, and to just be flown down to Torrance, California, which is wherever. But like he showed me Hollywood because he lived in Hollywood, and just kind of had a really cool eye on things and the creativity of the ads. Like because he was really good friends with like Jeff Tremaine over at Big Brother, and those guys at Big Brother was doing our graphics for us, or our ads for us and everything. And Jeff Tremaine actually did board graphics. He's actually a really talented painter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He don't really paints anymore.
Right.
I actually asked him that a little bit ago. He's like, oh, I haven't painted in a long time. I was like, dude, your paintings are amazing.
Sick.
Like you just do huge things that are really textured, and it's really cool stuff. So he did a couple boards for us, I think. So yeah, like Division 23 was it was my first sponsor, my first kind of glimpse into the snowboard industry that I've been just like watching from the outside forever, watching all the videos, like ripping open the magazine as soon as it showed up in the mailbox. Like that was everything to me, snowboarding. And then to be finally kind of like sponsored and like this is the industry, and like meeting Greg DeLeo as a president, and like he flew me down to trade shows and stuff like that. Like trade shows are like, what? Like, oh my gosh, there's so and so, there's so and so. Like, whoa, this is nuts. Like,
I love that.
Like, there's a Burton booth, there's a Sims booth. Like, it was just like, you know, a little kids in heaven type of a thing. And then you'd fly me down to the office in Torrance, California. It's just a boring ass office. In Division 23 is like owned by a Japanese company, and it was just kind of not, you know, the snowboard company office as you expect, small or big or whatever. It just wasn't like, didn't have like the punk rock posters on the wall, and
right.
people, you come in, everyone's drinking beers or whatever, you know, you expect is like, you know, like this awesome secretary lady, I forget her name, but she is fucking hilarious. But the thing is that Greg was really good friends with Jeff Tremaine over at Big Brother and World Industries and all those guys. And so he'd take us over to their offices by the airport there, and like, that's where like, that was like the office, like the World Industries office was like
right.
cool. Like that was pre like .com cool offices, and so you go in there and they had these weird like camouflage like army netting and stuff on their offices, and
sick.
It was a really fucking cool office, and all these giant monitors and people doing all this cool art stuff. And then JT did the ads for us, and so we go to the ad like, okay, we have this cool idea of this, and he's like, oh yeah, I can Photoshop this and blah blah blah, blah. And so I just like, I was just be sitting behind him like doing like watching him do some of this stuff on Photoshop, and he'd be like, oh, and then just, you know what I'm doing, like kind of have to teach me, and kind of be interact with them and ask them questions. That's kind of where I got into Photoshop and computer and Illustrator type of ideas. I just like, oh, this is just kind of really fun stuff, and I got to be so intrigued by it and how he did this stuff and how he photoshopped and everything, and just kind of learned it that way. And then a lot of the photographers too, like we used Rick Kosick for the Guar ad, and then I forgot who shot the other big time photographer there, Jim, no, not Jim, but started with B, last name B. Anyway, but he's one of the bigger kind of photographers of Big Brother, and skate stuff. He shot my Jim Morrison ad where I morph into Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
So just kind of to work with these guys, especially like Big Brother, like I loved Big Brother magazine. Like that was another one
it was
had
so
subscription
badass.
to because it's so punk rock. Like,
yeah.
Like, controversial everything.
How to build a bomb or whatever. It was
know.
Crazy Larry Flint, over the top style shit going on.
So
there.
probably a lot of my kind of future inspiration you kind of brought before, of just kind of having a focus on anything I kind of do, was also Big Brother. Is like, I remember seeing a contest, as like Austin contest, or I don't know what it was, and then it was basically just a normal article, like copy the photographs of skaters, and then crowd in the background going, yeah, whatever, and I just kind of talk about it. But then you start kind of looking, and you see this person's face all through the crowd, the same face, like what the, and then you see on another page, and there'd be something else kind of wonky going on, just hidden, like just like all these little like weird stuff going on. It's like, oh, like that's just brilliant. Like I just love that aspect of them doing the work and not telling anybody.
Right.
You have to find it, and so it's a full attention to detail that 90% of the people probably didn't even notice.
Truth.
Type of a thing. Except for us kids who just have such, you know, tunnel vision of what we're into, and like that was just another thing. Is like I try and do little weird shit like that too throughout stuff, and so like I did a pattern for Dakine years and years later. It's like a camouflage type thing, and in it somewhere is my autograph in a weird way, obscured, so like the executives wouldn't see it. No one really saw it, but I can point it out to you.
That's amazing.
And they're like, oh yeah, that's your name.
That's
like just
amazing.
kind of weird little hidden fun stuff. I mean, I guess it kind of goes to like the X-rated Disney cells in the movies.
It's crazy shit. That's but you got like, and it agreed with you. Like you were like, this is something that I want to take to whatever I do in the future, right? Like you're like, oh, this is fun. These guys are doing what they want. Plus it's kind of badass. Plus fuck yeah, I want to do this?
I think that, but I also think at an early stage I wanted to have full kind of direction on how I was going to be presented in my career.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it started with the pink rainbow graphic, and I think that was maybe like kind of the first weird things that it's like I just want something completely different from all this black snowboards and skulls and all that stuff. Like, and I saw inspired by that one of the Sean Sheffy skateboard with like Hello Kitty or something like that.
I've looked it up.
And I was like,
it's dope. Yeah.
Like that is just so punk rock.
It's like kind of an 8-bit graphic, but it's got like a three-color rainbow. And you saw that and you're like, fuck, I'm gonna do something like that.
It just kind of resonates to me as like, this guy is so cool. He can do the fucking like most on-masculine.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's probably a better term for that. Graphic, because he's so just secure in who he is. And I mean, at the time, the rainbow thing had no affiliation with LGBTQ. Well, I mean, it probably did, but it wasn't as recognized as it is now.
Yeah, it did. I think it did.
I think that just, makes it even cooler now.
Totally.
The thing is like, oh, it just kind of, still translate to like, just means like a total like, we're just going to do what we're going to do, be who we are.
Yes.
And we don't care about doing the graphics that we should do or being the person that we should be.
How did Guar get involved? Because it's the rainbow graphic. Is there something between the rainbow and the Guar?
I think it was just the juxtaposition of doing both. But
right.
But at the same time, too, very hyper-focused on what I was kind of into at the time. And I was kind of, I think I was just 19.
You were that young when you had that rainbow board. That's sick.
I think so, yeah.
That's epic.
No, it is 20. Anyway.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I started kind of going to a lot of shows and concerts and stuff. And so, like for the Guar board, I wanted to have a concert image. I think is from back when I was 10 years old, like always looking at like Hit Parade, heavy metal magazines and stuff like that. And just like every photo in there was like either the band photo, like, or like the cool concert photo, which is like the orange light basically, and the fucking strobes and all that stuff. Just kind of had that kind of feeling of just like, oh, that's a world I want to be. I'm scared of, but I want to be part of, or something like that.
Did you go to Guar concerts before?
So I went. Yeah, I saw Guar before all that, and so Greg's like, okay, what band? It's like, well, Iron Maiden's like, love metal, and like that was kind of my favorite metal band, like the old Iron Maiden, like some of the newer albums. Yeah. I gotta be clear on that one.
Sure.
And then he's like, well, we can't get Iron Maiden. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then he's like, and I think Guar came up, and he's like, oh, we can do Guar. Rick Cossack, I think, fucking shot their concert. And
sick.
Like, really? Because I think I just went to one of the concerts, like the Mind Melter. If you've never been to a Guar concert, I haven't been to any new ones, but I'm sure they're just as insane.
Yeah.
They got kind of a cool story, I think, to go because of the Oderus' passing and stuff. But anyway, it was just one of those concerts that's like, this is the way concerts should be. Just like everyone's just so stoked and just like just going nuts with like the juices and everything,
slime and
it was
jizz,
the theatrics,
and
even the ghetto-ness of it too. It wasn't like perfect.
Totally.
And he's like, oh, I can totally, it's like, it was just at that time, especially at that age, and it's like, wow, this is.
I forgot that.
I remember seeing them in Thrasher magazine too. It's like,
right.
What the fuck is this band?
Right.
And then kind of learning a little bit more from it. It's like, oh, they're just like a funny band. Like they're not like gonna actually literally kill people.
Right.
They're not like a satanic band. Like, it's actually a huge fucking funny ass joke, but it made fucking cool music. And
it was kind of wild that they did a board with Sims, like, I don't know, 8 years later, something like that.
I think it's wild that Sims did a board with
That's
them.
what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Not them.
I mean, yes, as granted, it's a little bit different style and everything. And, I mean, like, a lot of my graphics has been kind of remade of sorts.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against it. Like Danny Davis did, I think, both Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Morrison,
Yep.
and Fear and Loathing.
Yep.
Also, which, whatever. Danny Davis does sweet ass switch methods in a half pipe, so whatever.
Yeah.
And he actually got Ralph Steadman, the original art, so that actually is more legit, apparently, because ours wasn't real.
Oh, really?
We can't afford that shit.
Yeah, totally.
No, we could not afford that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, they did the real thing. And they brought Guar to like Vegas and stuff, right at that tail end of Vegas being like this gathering of everything. It's crazy to see where the industry's at now. I'm stoked that you're doing Forum. You're doing Forum yourself and a partner now, right? Like it's the two of you guys.
Yes.
It's
me and my business partner Kenny, who's also a long-time snowboarder, not quite as long as 87, but early 90s.
Oh, sick.
He's got a lot of friends from the snowboard industry, kind of one of Blue Montgomery's best friends, kind of been there with Blue starting Capita way back in the day, and kind of seen it all from kind of adjacent while he's over working at Xbox and starting agencies and stuff like that, and just kind of wanted to create something new. And during the kind of pandemic, still kind of figuring out what I was going to do after Decline. It's another story. So during the pandemic, I was starting kind of an apparel, or actually I was starting kind of more of a loungewear slipper company.
That's awesome.
And then the pandemic hit, and like, God damn it, everyone's gonna be doing loungewears and slippers because we're not going anywhere.
Right.
And sure enough, everyone did that, and so like, it's like, well, this, that's a whole thing that really wasn't too big at the time, and would have been a kind of a cool, fun thing, and
quirky,
and
creative,
so like, okay,
fun.
kind of transition that into this other kind of idea of like during the pandemic, we all thought we were gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, we're all gonna catch COVID and die. And so I started looking at, okay, what can I do to help the world? Because that's what everyone does. Like, how can I help the world? And so my, what I learned through kind of Decline and everything was always kind of that attention of at one day starting something. So learned about factories, learned about development, or kind of new design, but I knew more of the details of all that stuff, to one day be able to do it myself. And so kind of learned all that stuff through them, and through the pandemic, and then kind of started reaching out to look into products that could kill viruses, basically.
Oh, wow.
There's antimicrobial, like polygen and stuff like that kill bacteria, but they couldn't kill viruses. And so kind of looked into finding fabric treatments that actually killed viruses.
Wow.
So I found a couple, talked to them, and found out which one was kind of the best one, which is real. And you can't really say they kill viruses because of FDA, but in Europe you can.
Okay.
And so
I've never heard of this stuff. That's nuts.
So yeah, it's called Hyprotech from HiQ. Is the one brand we went with. There's a few others, but there's also one, other time. And so like, okay, make travel gear that's kind of antiviral. So you're on the airplane and you kind of don't want to do this in your jacket because you could be covered in the person right next to you that's
Totally.
COVID, even though you're wearing your mask. And anyway, I mean, and a lot of people are just kind of germophobic anyhow.
Totally.
And so even if the COVID thing kind of goes away, as it kind of has a little bit, there's still kind of a relevance there. But anyway, moving on, then Forum, like we were kind of got some samples made of this. Actually had a small run of samples of product that's basically kind of outerwear.
Rad.
Because like that was my specialty, but also kind of made some face covers and neck pillow and stuff. And so Forum hit, and I didn't ever expect Forum to come back. That was not what I was looking for, not what I was hoping for, not what I was expecting. I was fine with it just being gone.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if the trademark comes up and someone gets it, they're going to do something wacky with it.
Totally.
And I didn't want to see that.
And the guy did for the first year or whatever that he got
He
it.
didn't. he got it. It took him a long time to do the lawsuit with Burton, and he won that. That was before he even came to us. He basically came to us like, and he started talking to JP first, and then JP's like, I can't do this with you. I got other stuff going on. You should reach out to these guys. So he reached out to us after he got it, but he already had Special Blend, and that's where he kind of started doing some random stuff with it.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
It's
Yeah,
kind of selling an Amazon style. It's not really true Special Blend
right.
thing. And JP's like, you can't do it like that. Like, you'll be, people will hate you.
Totally.
And so he reached out to us to do it right, and like, can we do it? Like I'm not gonna do it without my business partner Kenny, because he's the one who keeps me focused on everything. Because otherwise, I'm all over the place, and he knows.
You guys were business partners doing that.
We're working really well together.
Yeah,
and like, we already had our thing going on. Like I just, and he's like, let's do it. Maybe do both. Who knows? We'll see. And so we agreed. It took a little while for the negotiation type stuff. And then it didn't really totally work out the way we were imagining it would, as far as kind of how it would be run, creative, a lot of stuff like that. But I mean, the response was amazing. Like, people were just stoked to have it back. I didn't really want to launch it with any full idea of exactly what Forum was, because as in the past, Forum was always shaped by the riders and the fans of the brand, and that's kind of the direction we were kind of going in at the time then. Like, we got a lot of influence from me, the riders, like JP, like all those guys, like, had a huge influence on the brand in the past, and that's what I wanted to bring to the new brand, of bring up kind of new riders in the same sort of way. I mean, we can't carbon copy what Forum used to be.
Right.
I don't expect to fucking ever get like that. That was just an amazing time and what we did. But there's a lot of respect within that, of respecting the riders that are riding for us and giving them or having them give us input and taking their input and professionalizing it and making it make it work for them. But like, this is their brand too, and the same kind of respect that I felt like when I was riding for Forum. Like, okay, this is a brand that represents me, and so it should represent me. And so, I don't know, just coming from a rider's point of view, how a rider thinks about their own sponsor, just kind of putting that into it, but also being an owner of the company and like, okay, understanding there's certain things that need to be done in certain ways, but also with the riders and having their input and wanting their input and knowing that they are the ones that eventually will see kind of the future, opposed to like an older guy like me.
Yeah, there's not a lot of rider-driven brands at this moment in time.
I mean, behind the scenes, I wouldn't know like how much influence. I mean,
Sure,
when
sure.
Forum was with Burton, they actually did fly a bunch of us riders out there a few times.
Yeah.
To go to like design meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and,
they did that rider round
so,
table.
like,
They
I don't
still
know
do. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
other brands and stuff like that are doing it. There's definitely a few rider-owned companies, depending on how much the rider owns it and how much stake they have in
Sure.
decision making. I don't know.
There used to be a lot more. It felt like there was a lot more, and now it feels like there's a lot of conglomeration. Big companies that are, buying up small companies. I guess that always happens, but like, where are the kids that are starting companies? Like, when you were at Division 23, you were in your 20s. You start Forum. You're what, 25, 23?
21.
You were 21 years old when you started Forum?
I think so.
Think about a 21-year-old
96.
kid now. That's my son. What business is he starting?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah.
I mean, to be straight, I didn't go to California's Secretary of State and filed all the papers, and
Right,
there's people
right.
running the business side of things.
Right, sure.
But yes, I was in the meetings and learning the whole process
Yes.
of that and what the
You
little things
were
you
an
don't see.
owner out of the gate, right?
I was
Like
an
that
owner.
was a part of the whole
I mean,
thing.
I was an owner out of the gate, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, I wasn't running the day-to-day operations of the business.
So Mack Dawg buys in full on too. He's also an owner in the original forum. And it just caught fire. Like, you guys were doing the right thing. You were getting rider input. You were building like innovative products and growing and getting better every year. It was very,
I mean,
very
Raw was
cool
really
time.
good at that stuff. Like he was friends with Steve Rocco and picked his brain quite a bit because like at that time, World Industries was the big thing.
Yeah,
And like, okay, how do you do it? Like, just get the best riders.
yeah.
Like get like for them to get the best skaters.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting a little bit different than snowboarding, but same kind of process anyway. So he kind of stuck to that. He's like, we're gonna create the best team. But when he kind of brought in me and Mike, our job was to find the team, and the way we were finding teams, we didn't want to buy people. Like we
Right.
didn't want to buy existing people. Like we wanted
Terrier
to create
and
them because we had the
Gooch and
we had the capabilities to promote what will become the best riders. So we got Bjorn and Duffy and JP first. It's like, dude, I saw JP already doing switch backside spins and all that stuff. Like, where at the time, like, no one is even thinking that way. So it's more about
Right.
the thinking of what these future riders are going. Like, this guy's already thinking of the future. These other riders are just kind of doing what's expected. BJ was always a rider I was jealous of his riding because he was just like on it. Like he was just so clean and good at what he did, and like had a little bit of a cocky attitude, which I've always called him out on.
That's dope.
And I mean, he's a kid and he's good. Like, but yes, it was always something. I was to see the kid ride, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't be so jealous. He wasn't so cocky. Or something like that. I don't know. But at the
Sure.
same time, it's like, well, like there's a reason why I'm like jealous of him because he's a fucking good rider, and that's who we want on our team is a good rider. It's not, and it has anything to do with the way I feel about a person.
Right.
And like we became friends and everything. We still kind of push to shove, like all brothers in that situation type of thing. But overall, everything was really fucking tight with everybody, and we just traveled together and everything. Duffy was another like kind of young kid, just going huge and killing it. Like,
He had a lot of
like,
heat
oh,
on
shit.
him. Yeah.
Like the first to do some like giant 900s and stuff like that, especially at that age, and like doing all that stuff. And then from there, like the only other person was kind of Devin would be the only person you can kind of say is bought, I guess. But he's been
Sure.
kind of fluctuating through different board companies from I think Barfoot to Shorties.
Option, yeah, you had option in there. But yeah, I think Shorty's,
But
he
kind of
wanted
was
to
already
stay with
attached to Special
Shorty's.
Blend, and
Yeah,
he just
yeah,
was
yeah.
already filming for Mack Dawg, I think.
Totally.
And so it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh,
of
this
course.
is the perfect fit. type
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah, he wanted to stay with Shorty's. Shorty's was like just imploding at the time because Tony, he was getting really good with his skate videos. And I think snowboarding, yeah, no, he did his snowboard videos too. Something just happened. Probably that
The Young Brown
snowboards
Walsh.
are expensive. Yeah, Young Brown Walsh is just a
Yeah,
classic.
snowboarding moves are expensive.
Right,
Like,
so
you
you
gotta travel and all that stuff.
and even
Skateboarding,
just
you walk
units
outside.
per unit, you're buying like snowboards. To buy 1,000 snowboards, you need all this cash up front, right? If you're getting skateboards out of a factory and you get terms 30 days or something, you can sell them and pay for them. But if you got to pay for material up front for snowboards, it's a really difficult business model.
It is, yes. And going through that now, like, obviously I know a bit about it, in all the sales meetings, but it's also another whole process of running the company and like working with the factories and doing the graphics for them. And okay, how much is this metallic stamp? Oh, that's going to cost this much, like, and that's going to raise the price of the board this much, and like okay, we can do something cooler than that. And it kind of gives a kind of a fun way of actually becoming more creative. than
Sure.
just being, if you like, can do anything, you're just like, oh, I'm just going to do the usual expensive shit. But if you're like, okay, I got to work with within a budget to make these boards come in at a price that people are going to want to buy them at for what they're kind of worth, basically. Let's get creative with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a process I'm doing the snowboard graphics. We're working with a bunch of different artists last year. Then this year we had kind of Paul Brown come in with some of the kind of the old Destroyer graphics. We kind of changed a little bit, so it has a little bit of a history to it, but didn't want to do a full nostalgia type play type of thing. Just kind of a little taste as we brought back the old names, but it's mostly all the graphics I did this year in the black and white series. So it's kind of the history of sorts I just kind of have in my head. Anyway, like the first year was the reboot of it being all glitchy.
Yep.
And the Danny Minnick board was kind of the anthropology thing of the old snowboards, the skeleton snowboards was actually historic riders from the past that are kind of based off of those ones. And so that kind of has like the beginnings of snowboarding, a glitch coming out of the beginnings of snowboarding, and this is the black and white era of kind of it retuning into the old and being inspired by the old, and then next year we'll see. So it kind of has a little story. It's not a big fucking thing, but it just kind of helps me kind of have a little more fun with it.
I like
same
it.
thing with the Big Brother pictures in the background. You don't really see what's going on, but it's kind of makes it a little bit more fun for me to kind of have a little bit of guidelines. Otherwise, you know, the world's the limit, and once you can put a snowboard graphic, you can put anything on it, because form is always kind of skulls and punk rock, or Hesh and then also hip hop and like all this other stuff, and kind of conservative and whatever is all over the place, but still kind of have a clean aesthetic to it all and kind of put it all together. And so there's a lot we can kind of work there. And so you kind of stick to the board series and what they're kind of about. So Destroyer is a little bit more kind of punk rock, rockery. Recon Free Rides a little bit more kind of conservative, patterny, graphic-y type stuff. Youngblood's a more kind of a young, youthful, fun type of a thing.
Yeah, Forum Youngblood's one of the most successful branding things in snowboarding. Like, so many people came up through that contest series. The boards were badass. They were the right price. That was a big part of it too. And the graphics were just always insane.
So yes, the snake from the Youngblood series is the main logo we kind of brought back for this year as a kind of the introduction of it. So
Dope.
it's kind of like a little bit mini, so kind of starting out Youngblood mini. It's kind of like, you know, bringing up the new young kids, and it's kind of that, and introducing them to the Youngblood that way. And so yeah, definitely kind of went through all the old boards and kind of got the inspiration for a lot of it, the graphics from the old stuff.
It's got to be fun to get to pick the team again and to be back in that driver's seat of a snowboard company and make those kinds of decisions. Be looking out there for like the next talent
really
and all that.
It is funny and fun, of course, to be on the other side of things and be kind of the team at. I mean, I have plenty of hats, like product design, creative, art director, you know, the whole bit, and then also team manager. But it's so awesome and fulfilling to like call up like a 17-year-old Eli and like shoot the shit with them about like tricks. Like, dude, like that, like try this. Why don't you try this one? Like, it's like, oh, dude, I tried it, check it out. It's like, and I just kind of talk snowboard tricks. Like, so I'm kind of like continuing my snowboarding through, like for him, kind of park kickers, like transition that way, and then same thing with kind of jack type of stuff. Like, okay, backcountry type stuff. Like, okay, let's look at the mountain type cool ways and kind of try and just be kind of, I don't know, just talking the same language again, but with like the kind of the new round of riders.
So rad.
And it's kind of like getting those guys together in one way of how Forum, I believe, was successful in the past through all the eras that it was the team always was a really tight team and kind of traveled and hung out and was friends with everybody on that team. It wasn't just like so-and-so sponsored and so-and-so over here sponsors. Like, dude, like we're trying to get everyone to kind of be the crew type of a thing. And
Yeah,
I think
the projects really reflected
think
that.
In the way it's kind of coming about too, I feel that the riders really kind of want something like that too.
Yeah, of
Kind
course.
I mean, I know it helps their riding, but to have a kind of a one, besides just themselves as a motivation, winning something or having a better video part, is to kind of do it as a group to improve this kind of a bigger thing.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in your career, you were a bit of a lone wolf out there with what you were doing. You never really were like a part of a like a tight-knit crew in my memory. But was there an era where you had that around you, like where you were with Dave Lee and Joey McGuire and all those guys? Or was it like everybody's kind of out on their own, but the sensibility of the Pacific Northwest with Jamie and everybody, I mean, God, there's so many. Temple and
I think that's just more of a me thing. Like, I've always been kind of the kid friends, but also just like really just enjoy just sitting in my room and drawing and doing weird stuff.
Right.
Just headphones on, listening to fucking metal music, punk rock music, depending on what age. And then snowboarding too. I'd either my mom drive me up, or I had like my skate friends are a little older than me. I had driver's license, and that's how I kind of got up to the mountain when from 14, 15 till 16 till I got a driver's license. And even all the time I would just go up by myself and ride and see friends up there and go ride with them, but it was just a thing. Like, I can just go down, ride, and do the weird stuff that I'm gonna do. I don't need to feel weird about this person who just goes straight down the mountain, and I'm just like, they're always waiting for me at the lift line because I'm just going back and forth looking for every little tiny jump there is, and sometimes stopping to hike something if I fell on it and I want to have a trick in my head I want to try. And so it was kind of, for me, I had the motivation that I think with other riders they might enjoy riding with other people because it helps them. So like, even when I was Division 23, it's just me out there traveling with the LibTech team down to New Zealand, Australia. It was Jamie, Todd, Slosher, McGuire, and me.
Yes.
And Alistair Schultz on some trips. But I mean, as a Mack Dawg crew, and a lot of times, like, but it's always just kind of like me and then another team, like some Burton guys, travel with Johan or something on a trip.
Sure.
And those guys, and then eventually became, Forum started, and then that was the crew that I always travel with, the Forum team. And we're filming with Mack Dawg, and then just filming it with our own thing. Of course, we'd be filming with our own kind of Forum crew. And then also for video tours, everyone would get together, and you kind of had your other people you might not be riding with. Like with Eddie Wall, like I didn't really ride with him very often during the season, but we'd always just be hanging out the entire time together on the tours and stuff like that. And so like from being kind of the lone guy just doing my own thing, then I got everyone around me.
Yeah, totally.
But it worked. Like it was cool. It was fun, like, to have that. I mean, not saying it's something I'm missing in life, but it's also a good thing in life to have.
Sure.
You like love your solitude, and sometimes it's very easy to stay in it, and it's comfortable. And it's like, I don't want to go. I'm just gonna do this or whatever. But I mean, it's just the same thing as friendship. And then then like I was saying too, we all have this common goal, so it's still kind of pushing me for everything. And then I get kind of like, you didn't really step up today, guys. I had to be, not necessarily dad, 'cause I'm like only like, a couple years older than the guys.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But like, there was a time when one of the riders was just not landing their shit, and every rider was like, it wasn't just like Raw saying or a team manager or me. It was like all the riders like, dude, fucking step up, dude. Like we're not out here making this video with you falling and not gonna have a video.
I can't even imagine being that dude. That would have sucked so hard to be like off your game.
Of course it sucked at the time, like, especially when you get that.
Right.
I mean, they're gonna know it.
Totally.
Or unless
they
think they're you can't just put your hand down on a landing and expect that to be a landing, because it's not. Like that's gonna get cut.
Right.
Like we're not just snipping the shit.
No, Mack Dawg was ruthless. Right.
Very
ruthless. He had to be.
And we stuck with that even to the videos afterwards. It's kind of a sketchy landing. It's like, dude, but I fought for that trick all day. He's like, no one's gonna know that. Right. This landing looks sketchy.
They're just gonna see the hand touch on the landing.
So if there's any questions, you usually cut it. There's a couple of shots that I definitely kept because it was like, this might be my last video part, so we got to keep that one in there.
Yeah, when you did film your last video part, there'd been a few years in between, right? You'd taken a hiatus, and then you came back and filmed?
Yeah, I think there's a couple like that. Maybe I wasn't in. I don't remember the movies I wasn't in. Video games. I don't remember. there's a couple in there where like, wait, I'm not in that movie, wasn't I? I was like, I know why I'm not riding. Or, I mean, I did my retirement. I claimed I was retired, so I had an excuse to not film.
Right.
Or do the X Games contest or anything, but I was still riding, and I had at least do like one shot in each movie. I think it was kind of the thing. And then eventually, like, I was kind of saying, is I guess, so I'm doing kind of street stuff. And like, dude, I got some tricks in my head. I've been riding the whole time.
Yeah.
But also is like riding this chill style, and then riding what we ride for filming is like you don't hit the same stuff. And like I missed like hitting some giant quarter pipes. Like this stuff looks fun. Like I want to be on those shoots because I really enjoyed riding some of these things. And so I came back form against them. And that's one of my kind of favorite parts too, because it's at a higher level of riding, I think. So it's like one of those, like back in the day, you watch like some of my famous parts from like the 90s, and it's like, looks kind of whack compared to right now, but I think form against them, there's a lot of tricks still hold up.
Sick.
To where like, it's still relevant to today, and
totally.
It's really kind of fun for me to come back and do some new stuff that I hadn't done before. I did a lot of street stuff, the hand plant transfer down the wall, switch back 2 ends of the wall, some other shit. And then when I started filming for the year after, then I got hurt. And I broke something.
Oh shit.
Broke my back. That's it.
Something.
That'll do it.
Your back, yeah, no, that's
I broke
fun.
my back in that season, and then the season after, like me and Eddie did the Peter and Eddie files.
Yep.
And I kind of knew at that point, it was like, okay, I had my little comeback to like feel good about everything, but at the time I was like 30-something, like mid-30s, and
right.
it was fun, and I was like, I want to do something else.
Through the whole time, you've got to be getting approached by, fans of this show, just fans of Peter from Division 23 all the way through, like, because you were an innovator. You cracked that top 10 list of people in the snowboard pro industry that were beloved, you know what I mean? How has that been over the course of your life? Do you still have people coming up to you and going like, holy fuck, it's Peter? I mean, the guy in the lineup today was like, I saw Peter Line one time and I stood beside him for a really long time, but I couldn't really say anything. I got, like, does that still happen for you I guess up here at Baker, of course it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, at ski areas, it's usually, you see like the people doing this, I can kind of see like you look at somebody and then you recognize somebody. It's like, and I think it's obviously awesome. I fucking dig the fans.
So rad.
Came from the same place they're coming from, and just kind of seeing someone that you've seen, probably watching the video like over and over and over again.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, even if you see someone on Instagram that you just follow, no one famous or anything, but just whatever, and then you see him in person, you're like, whoa, you're that person. Like, it's like almost like a little fame thing there.
Totally.
Too.
And you
just like kind of like, wow, like I've never met this person I see on a daily basis.
Right.
In person.
Right. Like you were saying too, you were at a time where, if they threw an event like the Innsbruck Air and Style, 30,000 people show up. And then it's night and it's like a spotlight and it's on you and it's like this huge, huge event. So you would have been recognized in airports and all over the place. Like for those main years in there, that would have been fucking awesome.
Well, I don't know if it's awesome. I mean, until you're standing in the same shoes.
Right,
like,
right.
I'm not really comfortable with, like, the fan interaction of sorts, I guess.
Sure.
Not that I don't like it by any means. Like, I mean, it
doesn't bother you.
It's nothing
it's
that I'm striving to be famous or.
Right.
I mean, at the time, like, oh, it'd be cool to be a pro snowboarder, but when you go to Japan and there's like signing autographs for 2 hours or more.
That's insane.
And it was even happening with me and Ingemar in Sweden. We were signing autographs for like hours. And there's people was like, and then like that, it's like you just get into a robot mode. Like, it's nice to meet you. Like, you know, and
totally.
And then you got the whole insecurities of like, if I didn't look him in the eyes, the person's gonna walk away. He's like, "That guy's a dick," or whatever. And like, it's like, I'm not trying to be a dick. Everyone's a dick at one point in their life, and then you don't. You just caught me in that dick moment. Where I told that stupid joke that you didn't get, and now I'm rude or whatever it is, and like, so just you got all the eyes on you. Sure. Because of the fame. And even like the whole big thing in Mount Hood summer years and years ago at the go-karts. Like, I was the famous guy that everyone saw that night, and so I got the blame because I was there.
Okay, what's this story?
Everybody.
What's this story?
I forget what year. Mount Hood, nighttime. I'm drinking, party, and then they all go out, and people started stealing go-karts from the go-kart place and driving around government camp. And then some Euro guy, I think it is, I don't know, honestly, lit a van on fire. Like, who the fuck lights a van on fire?
Oh my!
Like, why would you fucking light a van on fire? It's like, yeah, punk rock, like Molotov cocktail.
Oh my fucking god!
But I mean, it was the van on fire was like, okay, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
The other shit is like, it's shenanigans.
Totally.
Like, we're not stealing your fucking go-karts. We're just driving around and ditch them somewhere. Yeah, it fucking sucks. You gotta go pick them up. And totally. Someone, but like people went to jail for it and shit. Like,
oh fuck.
Ask Corey Smith about it. He did a whole painting series, I think, on it.
Oh god,
he got busted. The cops came up and started chasing people. I wasn't one of the slow ones, so I mean, that's the scenario where it's like, all you have to be is faster than you.
Yeah. You're speeding away in a little go-kart.
No. Like, the go-karts are gone.
Oh, they're gone.
I mean, I wasn't even really part. I was just kind of like, dude, this is fucking funny. Drink.
But like, somebody
like,
recognized that you were.
Go-kart.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, sure.
But it's just like, I'm not fucking putting on a trailer and taking it out of here.
Right.
Or anything like that. I was like, okay, yeah, but van on fire, fuck that. Like, that's just stupid shit. And that was just. But anyway, I got the next morning, some people from the Timberline hit up High Cascade. I think it was Tinino was working there, and I was with Bozong.
Oh, God.
So,
yeah.
And we started driving, like we knew there's gonna, I think I already kind of heard, like, I think we were planning on leaving anyway. And we were driving, Tina's like the guy's backs to us, and we knows as like a uniform of sorts. It wasn't cops, even though the cops did come the night before anyway. And he's all, get the fuck out of here. And so we left, and then I had to come down the week after for a photo shoot, and I heard the rumors like that I'm cut from the mountain.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, shit. So like, I was like, I just need to get like this dumb little photo. There's a little hip thing after the Palmer chair, first chair.
Yep.
And just go up, hit it a couple of times, and just kind of hike it. But then one of the fucking ski lifties recognized me. So there's the fame thing is like, I'm recognizable.
Yeah.
I'm getting in trouble for shit that, I didn't really fucking do, or, wasn't the main culprit by any means.
Right.
Ended up, like, the guy's like at the top, like, you Peter Lime, like, who?
That's fucking awesome.
Did the photo shoot, and I was like, fuck, I gotta do another photo shoot thing. And so I was like, okay, I gotta clean this up. And so I went and talked to the mountain manager at Timberline. So there's, basically the head of Timberline guy.
Yep.
So I was sitting in his office. So like, all right, I'm squaring up with you. Like, here's what happened. Like, he's got all like, I was just a face that I'm the only person people recognize because they don't know some random stranger.
Right. Euro guy
like,
that's lighting
should have done something.
Van on fire.
You're looked up to and like
a leader.
I guess so. I mean, kind of right as an adult, looking back, it's like
sure.
Should be more of an adult. Like, you kids, stop doing that. Like, seriously,
right.
Like.
But it's there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's consequences to be a part of it. You're just, damage control at the end. You're like, fuck, okay, so the guy got his go-karts back? Someone got charged for the van or something? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. Do you keep in touch with Nate?
Flojoy?
Yeah.
Here and there.
You check in with them kind of thing?
Not recently. Just recently, actually posted a comment on my Instagram thing. I kind of did a response back, like, miss you, bro, whatever.
Oh, that's good.
We had some fun times for sure.
Yeah,
he's a funny kid.
He was one of the most stylish guests of any podcast I ever saw when he was on Eth Stone's podcast. He showed up. He looked like $1 million. I was like, fucking, that guy's got so much style. He always had like swagger from the beginning.
Oh yeah, he's got some sick style right now.
Yeah.
All he needs to do is be able to act or play music, but maybe famous. Totally.
Wasn't he on some reality show at some point? Probably was.
I don't know, but it'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
Exactly. Amazing. Okay, so what's the future of Forum right now? Because we kind of just watched it go through. You know, we heard you on the bomb hole. Mack Dawg's there. Jeremy's there. JP's getting involved a little later on. I think he got involved, right? And so obviously it's not that game right now. It's trimmed down. It's you. You're the director now, right? You're directing the show.
I guess so. We don't really have titles, I guess.
Right. So it's you and a partner.
But I mean, there was kind of just kind of recently there's a transition of Josh, the guy who owned the trademark, wanting to get out. He didn't, which is fine.
Yeah.
And so there's basically we had to buy him out. And during that kind of transition, we just didn't really kind of see eye to eye. We had different priorities and things. And now it's just kind of me and Kenny doing it. And we were kind of working in the office for the whole kind of time, running the whole thing. And so it's kind of natural to go that route. It ended at a really high point. It wasn't like it dwindled out or anything.
Right.
It ended a sweet like video, awesome team, and then just kind of like they shut down. Like, sweet. Like that's kind of not a bad ending.
Yeah, and it wasn't you. You're not the bad guy in this.
Yeah, didn't start selling out and
totally.
Losing riders and then bringing on kind of whack riders or anything. It was just kind of ended at coolness.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm really content with that. Like when I got the call that it closed, eventually, it was emotional because, like, I didn't expect it to be emotional, but it was because it was like 20 years of my life or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget exactly. Not quite 20 years, but 20 years of my life, I was part of this thing. And it was just like, that chapter is completely ending. And so it was, I already put a lot of emotion into that already.
Of course.
And so for it to come back is like, also what I was saying, it's like, I don't want this guy to just get the trademark and sell it to some randoms and they just don't really.
It's happened to so many brands, right? Where it's just like
it's not the same. And
someone gets a hold of it,
like,
it's a piece of shit.
And then it's going to take away the importance of what it brought to the sport industry and culture before. And so I felt it's almost an obligation to take it on and work with the owner to make it the best we could with the means that we had. And now that we kind of own it outright, I mean, my partner, that responsibility it's a big responsibility because it is a lot of generations of riders grew up on Forum and it could have been their first snowboarder and that got them into snowboarding, and snowboarding for them could have been a huge thing. It could have like helped them out mentally with family issues, something to go. Like it was a sport, they do something, it's a culture, they bring people together, and it's more than just kind of a sport you do for fun and want to be good at, and then you go do something like that at the time especially. It was a way of kind of an outlet for people to have something there for them in all different kind of, for each individual is different, so it's kind of hard to kind of pinpoint exactly, but it meant something to a lot of different people, and we have that responsibility not to fucking ruin it, type of thing, and we want to respect it. And then we get it all the time, like, dude, you should bring back this, or you bring back this. Like, oh yeah, totally. Like, I know you love the brand. I know this destroyer board or this recon board was really important. You love that graphic and all that stuff. And like, totally get it. But we want to, like, that nostalgia that they're feeling is like, it's for real and it's important and it's strong, and we want to keep creating that nostalgia for the next generations of kids and kind of keep growing for them and that same thing. So it's generation wanting that same sort of thing. Bring back this, bring back this. And so yes, we will be bringing back nostalgia stuff, but it's like going to be a little drip here, a little drip there. You know, each season you'll see a little bit of something. You know,
it can't be.
But we're not going to just drop it, because
right.
that's not who we are. That's not what you should expect from us. Like Forum, the reason why I believe that everyone kind of loved it, because it presented all different things. It always kind of presented progression of sport culture, from the art direction to the videos to the riders, the tricks they did, who they were as riders, and kind of how they held themselves and their kind of viewpoints on the sport and where it's going. Everything about it was kind of evolving and growing with the community around it, that I think is really important of what the new forum needs to be and what it will trying to make it become, is like about the riders, about the new next generation, helping us create this brand and supporting the industry and the culture around it through it.
Yeah, you need to get that foothold so that you've got, you know, the up-and-comers having that same experience, like you said, as the young blood thing, where it's like you're building community. And I saw you at the Pac West event. I'm like, dude is like on it at grassroots level. Like, you were up there, you were interacting with this next generation that's coming out. I'm like, that's the way it used to be. That's the way it should always be. There's certain companies that do that really well. Salmon Arms, Dinos does really well with just like being plugged into the core community, not as some sort of gimmick to make money, but because they care about this thing that we care about. Like, they're connected to it in the way that we're connected to it. Like, we give a shit about coming out to opening day, or just about snowboarding in general, like in the way that it's portrayed, right? In the media or in just out in the world. It's like, it shouldn't be some executive making dollar and cent decisions at every turn. It should be...
I mean, you could do both. Like,
you could do both,
I mean,
right.
It's kind of knowing, like, there is a lot of play with, like, you know, kind of keep a certain price for this thing. There's going to be cost manufacturing, import duties, and all that shit.
Yes.
But you can do both. I mean, we had a lot of support from, like, local communities when Forum was first around. We still want to support those stores, especially the shops that were around then.
Yeah.
Keep with the kind of grassroots. Now we're kind of Seattle-based company, kind of work with Seattle ski areas and we're watching the ski areas in this community too, because we're here and we kind of there's a lot of like brands up here too, and so we kind of have a cool community. We're friends with all of them and shit like that too, which was kind of fun to like be part of again. Because I did kind of step away even when I was kind of designing apparel for Dakine. I was in it, but also kind of away from it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to kind of like come back to it again and like looking at like all the new kind of young riders and like what they're doing, and like, you know, it's like, okay, I know who that is. Like, you know, same aspect. I've been watching like this young kid like on Instagram, and if I see that kid in person, like, oh, there's that kid. And he's like 10 years old or something like that.
Sure,
it's like ah. And like, dude, that kid's, I see him every day. Whatever. Like, that's a little homie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so sick to see you up and out in the community, because the old heads are going, that's fucking Peter Line, right?
But I think to have that little kind of step back and kind of learning what I'd learned at Dakine about kind of the industry and production of apparel and development, all that stuff, also took me away from it, which brought in a lot more kind of energy and love instead of just kind of working in industry year after year after year after year after year.
Yeah.
Is like missed part of it, and then coming back in like, oh, this is cool, like going to more premieres and trade shows and stuff like that. Oh, like so and so is still around doing this, now he's working for so and so, and like, oh dude, anything you need some help, like, oh, and kind of seeing it on the other side of things, anymore as being a team manager, but kind of business owner, and kind of like, okay, let's do a collab. It's like, yeah, let's do this. Like, hey, this is fun. Like,
Sick.
So you get kind of all sorts of like the funness again, just on a little different level, and still have that involvement, and still can be a snowboarder through my snowboarders. Like, you should grab Stillfish on that one.
Yeah. Try and
Just do it once, just for me.
Try and make a tailfish look good, dude.
Try and make a tailfish look good. Like, I'm not gonna tell you my riders that, but
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
well,
Dude.
maybe just kind of go doofing around. Like, we'll be coming up here in December for a little team trip.
Rad.
So I get to ride with those guys all together for the first time. It's kind of fun. But yeah, Eli does, I don't know how many, like 1260, but he does like he used to call it poppus, where you do the around the back. He does a tail.
Yep.
And so it's kind of a tindy,
Yep.
with a front hand tailfish. But he does it in a spin, so it's like, it also looks pretty sick.
That's
so
wild.
That's kind of a beginning of like, I mean, that's kind of cool. Like, so I think there's ways of making whack shit look cool.
Of course.
But there's also ways of making cool shit look whack too.
Yep.
And let's not do that. Let's do the opposite.
Peter, thanks for coming up. It was so fucking rad to ride with you on the mountain and just follow you around and see that you still have
amazing.
that. You still have that happy. The way that you ride is very happy. You're having a good time. You're not jaded and bummed. You know what I mean? Oh
There is a
no, we
little
should have
bit,
been here. Should have
no.
been here yesterday. No, you're just hitting everything and having fun.
I always hit side hits.
Yeah.
Little tiny poppers.
FNRad shout outs to Peter Line for doing the show. Thank you, Gwen Howitt and the team at Mount Baker, who brought us such an amazing opening day. Shout out to Ted Zimmers, who I finally met in person after years of back and forth online. Please join our Patreon. It's the best place to get all our content and some free swag. Plus, you can support the show directly. We love that. And be sure to come back next week for another episode of FNRad Snowboarding, presented by Flojoy Water and brought to you by FNRad Productions.